Ethereum has just taken another step forward in its quest to become a high-performance blockchain. We're going to talk about that and a bunch of other news as well. Amundi moving onto a blockchain, North Korea, an ETP involving Bonk, Megga L2 and several other topics. Hello everyone and welcome to Crypto Red, the channel for crypto news. Let's start with the BTC price. Bitcoin at $91,000, Ethereum at more than $3,000. We're back above the $3,000 level for ETH. So we'll start with Amundi, the French asset manager we don't even need to introduce anymore. Well, Amundi has just tokenized the money market fund for the first time. It's actually a big deal. This is the first time Amundi has ever done something like this. They did it in partnership with Cassis, which is a subsidiary of a French bank. So yeah, it's really good. It's the Amundi Funds Cash. It's roughly $5 billion. It's a $5 billion fund. Only a portion of it will be tokenized, not the whole thing, but it's still huge to see big institutions, major banks, major asset managers finally acknowledging the power of tokenization. For me, honestly, I've always thought this would happen little by little. When you have BlackRock calling publicly tokenization a priority for them, it's obvious the other players are going to follow. The question is on which blockchain this tokenization will happen. Well, take a look. It was done on Ethereum blockchain. So yeah, a public blockchain, and I really appreciate that. They chose a public blockchain, not a private one. It makes sense to do this on a public blockchain, and of course, even more so on Ethereum. You already know my opinion on this blockchain, but it's genuinely great to see a thing like this happening on a public blockchain. It's clearly the trend right now. I think we're going to see more and more institutional players launching things on public blockchain for the neutrality aspects. When Amundi launches something on Ethereum, it means they trust Ethereum more than the other blockchains. They didn't get millions of dollars from the Ethereum Foundation or anything like that. They evaluated the situation and said, this is where we need to go. This is where things are happening on public blockchain for DeFi also. They didn't go, I don't know, Solana, Aptos. I don't have anything against this blockchain. They are good also, but Ethereum has the track record. It's been more than 10 years since the blockchain has launched. It has been running smoothly for 10 years. It has never had a shutdown, and that inspired confidence for institutional players. And speaking of Ethereum, I wanted to talk about the news regarding the gas limit. The gas limit has just been raised to 60 million. If you're not familiar with how these gas limits work, this might sound abstract, but previously it was at 45 million. So it basically gone up by 1/3. It's a huge jump. What does this mean in practice? Well, estimating the number of transactions per second isn't straightforward because a transaction can consume more or less gas depending on its complexity. A simple ETH transfer uses much less gas than a complex DeFi transaction, but we can look at averages. On average, Ethereum used to handle around 20 to 22 transactions per second before this update. With this increase, we should now be somewhere around 26 transactions per second. We've got this real-time tracking of Ethereum and grow the pie. When you can see, we were hitting almost 32 transactions per second, but it was just a few minutes ago. Now we're less. It fluctuates a lot, but the new average should be around 26 transactions per second. And you can clearly see the progression, which is remarkable. For a very long time, Ethereum didn't change the TPS. For years, Ethereum was unwilling to raise the number of transactions per second, and now over the past months, since a change in leadership at the Ethereum Foundation and other similar developments, we've seen a real increase. We went from 30 million to 45 million to 60 million gas limit, all within roughly a year. It's honestly very interesting. So basically, the network capacity has doubled in just 1 year. And of course, this is only the beginning. The vision with the lean Ethereum roadmap is to go to 10,000 transactions per second on the mainnet. So yeah, it's pretty far from here, but there are a lot of innovation that will happen to allow this to happen. Right now we are just starting and it's really gonna increase. There are even proposals to bake this transaction per second or more this gas limit increase directly into the code, so it would scale automatically on a regular basis. Right now, it's not regular at all. It's kind of a consensus thing. Validators must agree to raise the gas limit, but ideally, this should be automatic and to speed things up, in fact, or optimize the evolution and basically give us a clear roadmap for TPS increases, just like we had before with the old difficulty bomb on Ethereum that forced the network to fork regularly. over the last years. Anyway, long story short, Ethereum is clearly moving forward when it comes to transaction per second. Now, let's talk about BitMine. We're staying on Ethereum with BitMine. It's the company that accumulates a lot of ETH. They apparently bought $44 million worth of ETH, so they're still accumulating Ether, $14,000 of Ether. 14,000 ETH, sorry, 14,000 ETH. It's $44 million. We'll talk about other cryptocurrency for a moment, but now I talk a lot about Ether because a lot has happened around ETH these last 24 hours. What's interesting is that the CEO of BitMine, who was extremely bullish for ETH for the end of the year, has now pushed back his prediction. He's saying that the $7,000 to $9,000 price target is now more for the end of January 2016. So we'll see. I personally think that would be amazing news, $9,000, but it would still mean a 3x basically in 2 months. So it would be pretty crazy. But I do think it will eventually hit $9,000, but I think it should take more time. But hey, we never say, so maybe you're going to have a good surprise. We'll see. Next time, Megga ETH. Megga ETH is not Ethereum. It's a layer 2 built on Ethereum. They did a token sale recently, and they also did what you call a pre-deposit campaign where people could deposit token in advance to farm airdrops and other stuff. This pre-deposit campaign was a disaster. They announced a $250 million cap. People deposited way more. They were completely caught off guard, but they didn't block the limit in time. They said, okay, we'll raise the limit to 1 billion. No, actually 500 million. They did. It was really messed up what they did. So they said, okay, we're going to refund everyone. Honestly, this really shows there's an issue. It worries me. It worries me because a blockchain claiming to be ultra high performance, Megga ETH, a chain that says it will handle a crazy number of transactions per second, can't even manage something as simple as a pre-deposit campaign. Plenty of other blockchains have handled this way more effectively. Then let's talk about the hack of yesterday. I talked about the Upbit hack, more than $30 million stolen. And unsurprisingly, the first reports, specifically from the governments, indicate that North Korea might be behind the hack. That's the current suspicion, and honestly, it's totally believable. First, Upbit is a South Korean exchange that got hacked. Then the way the hack was executed, the whole exchange-style hack is something North Korea is extremely good at. It's very close to the cyber 2.0 world, phishing, taking over accounts, servers, that kind of things. And to me, that's really more North Korea specialty than advanced smart contract exploitation. We see them less on hyper-technical smart contracts hacked. Those are usually done by people who really know that space really well and who operate more independently, and who, by the way, often do completely reckless things after stealing the funds. But here, they actually seem to be pretty methodical. Some of the stolen funds already start moving from Solana to Ethereum. And by the way, that tells you something. Why do hackers move funds from Solana to Ethereum? Well, Ethereum simply has many more options to make the funds more private afterward, even to launder them. We can say this because Tornado Cash is also used for such things. And there's also the fact that they know they won't run into issues storing funds on Ethereum long term. On Solana, I don't really think it would be a problem either, but you can imagine some kind of coordinated action between nodes to freeze certain funds. I don't think that actually happened on Solana, but to be honest, if a court ordered a certain number of validators to comply, it's something that could theoretically happen. Anyway, what I mean is that hackers seem to prefer Ethereum, and in the past they even preferred Bitcoin usually, because there was usually a bridge from ETH to BTC, and BTC feel even safer. Next, we've got a fund, well, technically an ETP, that's being launched, and it's being launched by Bitcoin Capital. And the fund itself is built around Bonk. Bonk is the Solana meme coin that launched a few years ago now. So yeah, it's a bit strange, a company called Bitcoin Capital launching a fund for a meme coin, but whatever. It's basically mean investors will be able to trade this product easily on traditional trading platforms. It's traded on an exchange in Switzerland, and that showed that the diversification of ETFs and ETP is continuing. There are more and more options to buy cryptocurrencies without going through crypto exchanges, and I think this is a trend that will keep growing. There are plenty of investors who prefer this kind of platforms, the traditional brokers, because because of the security also that comes with it, and people who don't want to pay certain fees. Imagine you're a Coinbase, you're paying, I don't know, 1% fees every time you buy on spot with the simple interface. So yeah, there are platforms with lower fees, Binance for instance, but this type of financial product is also a solution. And again, I've said it before, I don't criticize people who prefer these options because it really is very simple and it helps democratize cryptocurrencies. I hope you enjoyed the content of this video. Don't hesitate to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you Monday for another video. Goodbye. Ciao, ciao.